Onside. I'm your host, Ayub Patel. I'm back in Blighty. I was in France over the last couple of weeks. I was also in London over the weekend last week. So it's been quite tiring, quite fatigued. I'm coming down with something. But apparently, OS, you seem to be in sunnier climes. Where are you, my friend?
It's normally me giving you a hard time about the jet setting lifestyle, so I'll have to wear this one. No, currently in Abu Dhabi with a friend here at his place. So I've come out to Dubai and Abu Dhabi for a week and a half. So yeah, just very nice, very warm. What's the weather like over there?
It's actually not too bad. I mean, we're actually doing it during the during daylight because this is actually Saturday. This is slightly unusual because of various travel. And I was traveling back on Thursday. Otis was traveling on Friday, which meant that we couldn't really shoot on Thursday or Friday. So we're shooting on Saturday. It's a Saturday special. This is just past 1 o'clock. I'm getting a little nervous. Leeds are playing in a couple of hours, so my nerves are kicking in, especially because we got beat. But the weather is fine. It's not too bad. It's bright and sunny. I've not really been out because I'm quite sickly at the moment, so I'm staying indoors. Hence the scarf. But just to let people know, you are actually in Abu Dhabi and not just on your roof. Just pan the camera so we do know actually that you are
Well,
in foreign climes.
It's very nice and warm. As you can see, the sun there setting. It's about 5 o'clock. So yeah, no, it's very nice. All the rest of it. I see a few rooftops, a few neighbours. But no,
excellent.
It's lovely. And yeah, first day, a little bit tired, but ready to go. And a lot of good football this weekend. Big game yesterday for Spurs. But yeah, hopefully Leeds can get you feeling a little bit better.
Well, I hope so because they let me down. I mean, I was absolutely exhausted on Wednesday, and I was hoping for a pick me up from Leeds, but my goodness me, they let me down big time. Or Daniel Farke let me down because he's got this obsession of never rotating. He's got this obsession also of only making substitutions from minute 70 onwards. So it's a massive game, and unfortunately, Ipswich, Leicester, these are winning machines. They carried on winning, so it's a must win. It's a must win, and I think Ipswich are playing. I've not checked their score, but they are playing right now. It's their I don't know what sort of derby it's called, but they're playing Norwich, so it's a big game for them.
I think it's called the Farm Derby. The Farm Derby.
I don't think it's called the Farm Derby.
It is
called
Ipswich Norwich. I think that's what they said. There was some flair.
Is that what
Ipswich.
It's called?
Yeah, there was something.
It could be, yeah, because Ipswich are the tractor boys. Not sure what Norwich are, but by the time that this is obviously broadcast, all the games have been completed. You'll know whether Leeds have won or not won. So at the moment, I'm tense. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, I'll be ecstatic. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Right. So
I was just going to say, I feel like the way you support Leeds, unfortunately, I think a lot of our viewers and people who know you and I are always hoping for Leeds to lose, which is never a nice thing, just to see how you react, which is a bit of a shame, but it's always brings about a bit of vitriol for myself. I saw your tweets regarding Daniel Farke, but yeah. Let's just hope for a win. Really keep it mild.
Yeah.
Keep it mild.
I mean, I tend to vent my spleen on X or Twitter as it was known previously. But before we crack on with the show, let me just ask all our viewers to smash a like, share, do all the good stuff. Spread the word, spread the good word. Okay, so do all the good stuff. But I talked about rotation. There was a guy that used to be a master of rotation, Alex Ferguson. So let's segue into the biggest game of the weekend, which is going to be tomorrow. It's my favourite game, Liverpool versus Manchester United. Now, normally it's a game where there's a lot of excitement, tension, and maybe, I suppose, no real certainty as to who's going to be a winner. Can it be anything apart from a Liverpool victory tomorrow, OS?
Hard to see, Ayub, other than, as you say, a Liverpool victory. It's the first time in a long time that it does feel as though there's not many that I've spoken to who feel that Man United can go to Anfield and pick up a result, right? I mean, they're off the back of some seriously bad form. They lost half their games this season, Ayub. 24 played, lost 12. I keep using that word average, and I don't mean in a disparaging way, but that's average, right? I mean, this is not the Manchester United that we think about in terms of the behemoth of the club, in terms of the class and consistency that they've put forth again under that manager that you just mentioned. So, I mean, look, I can't see anything other than a Liverpool win. I said earlier this week that I do feel as though the last couple of games or the next two games, i.e. Bayern Munich and Liverpool, will perhaps decide Erik ten Hag's fate at Manchester United. I do still feel that way. I think if tomorrow is an ugly defeat, I think what normally tends to happen is that a lot of the fans will find themselves really not seeing how Erik ten Hag can turn this around, and that's normally the starting point for a Man United board. Yes, there's going to be some changes on that front. I don't know if you followed the story this week. There's some talk about Graham Potter.
Yeah.
So Jim Ratcliffe is a big fan. You remember he tried to get him at Nice, where he owns that club as well. So, I mean, I was a bit surprised with those links, but maybe that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, I think a difficult defeat. Just on my first point, I just want to get you on this, on you on the record on this point. I think a difficult defeat tomorrow may well end Erik ten Hag's reign at Man United. I think the Bayern Munich defeat. There was some talk. I mean, Bayern Munich were in first gear, weren't they, Ayub? And yet still there was, I thought, a gulf in class between the two teams. Yes, Man United had a few injuries, but you could tell there's levels to this, and Bayern Munich were comfortably many levels, athletically, technically. They had a few more gears to go, and I think Bayern Munich were just kind of pacing themselves a little bit, and obviously got a deserved win at Old Trafford. The fact that game didn't get ugly perhaps helped Ten Hag a little bit. I always thought he was going to go into the Liverpool game anyway. I didn't think anything was going to happen in midweek. I just think you're out of Europe altogether now. That also slightly compromises the Premier League's chances in the coefficient rankings. The fact that Man United won't be participating in Europe, Newcastle won't be participating in Europe this season. So therefore, the Premier League being afforded 5 places for Champions League spots next year is also compromised. So it's a kind of a double whammy, so to speak. Look, I think it is pretty much D-Day for Erik ten Hag. If they lose horribly tomorrow, it's difficult to see with the way the media machine is, the way the Man United fans will probably react. It's difficult to see how Man United go on with Erik ten Hag still at the helm. That would put, I think, 13 points between the two rivals, age-old rivals, and we're not even at the halfway mark. So, yeah, I think a tough defeat, and I do think it may well be his last game in charge at Manchester United Football Club. What do you think?
It seems ever more likely now. I mean, I remember you maybe a few weeks ago saying that it's not really going to happen. Ten Hag will not be dismissed, but I think it's a real possibility. I'm not exactly sure how true these rumours are about Graham Potter, Jim Ratcliffe, and I'm not sure whether he would be the right man right at this time. But there needs to be seismic changes at Manchester United. I think in terms of playing personnel, there needs to be a real clear out. And I think this is the problem. And I've mentioned this before, that I think by just removing Ten Hag, I don't think it solves the problem, because the problem is much deeper. I think there's a lot of players there that really need to be shifted. They are part of the problem. It's a club that's had problems for a number of years. They've had a number of managers, some good managers, high-profile managers. I mean, Mourinho, one of the best in the business. Now, he did have some success, but ultimately he was forced out. So I'd be absolutely in a state of I don't know what it is. It's whether it's outrage, whether it's anger. I don't know. As Manchester United supporters, I'm not sure what you would be feeling, because it's difficult to actually see where you start, because there's so many problems that where do you start? Because I think the easiest thing to do is just remove the manager and replace him with another one. But I just can't see that being the primary solution. If Ten Hag is considered to be a really good quality coach, then maybe what they need to look at is, right, let's keep Ten Hag here, but let's try and identify the source of the problem. And I think a lot of the problems is the players. I mean, there's so many players there that just really, they're not the right fit for Manchester United. The attitudes stink, and it has to be addressed, because to me, all this talk about Ten Hag, is it going to be his last weekend? If it is, then to me, it's just going to be a continuation. Doesn't matter who comes in. If Graham Potter comes in, I really sort of think that he's not going to have much of an impact. But in saying that, he is an excellent manager. He is somebody that builds wonderful relationships. It didn't work at Chelsea, but again, there's a myriad of reasons why that probably didn't work at Chelsea. But I think that would be high risk if they got rid of Ten Hag and brought in Potter. I think it's high risk really high risk. They need to have a strategy in place. If they're going to get rid of the manager, they must be also focused on say, right, who are the bad eggs here? Who are the players here who are not really pulling in the direction that we need them to be pulling in? So I think if they're doing that as a Manchester United supporter, I'd be saying, yeah, there's a strategy in place. Removing Ten Hag, to me, it's not going to be the solution. In terms of the game, and I've spoken to Liverpool fans on this as well, because a lot of the fans are still saying that they're top of the league, but they've not really hit top form. I mean, they've sort of manufactured results and sort of grafted hard and sort of pulled out sort of late winners, as it was the case last weekend. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. This is not a Liverpool side that is blowing the opposition away. There's a lot of ordinary sides, if I can use that phrase, in the Premier League, who have given Liverpool a good game. So I certainly don't think that Manchester United are completely out of it, but I just consider that what's happening at Manchester United at this moment in time, it's just going to make it so difficult. I think what Liverpool have got going in their favour, that even though they're not playing well, there's a cohesiveness, there's a togetherness, and they keep on eking out positive results. So I can't see it being anything other than a Liverpool win, but perhaps not as comfortable as many are predicting.
It's a very good point, well made. I want to piggyback just before we do focus a little bit on Liverpool, because they are obviously also getting to that point of the season where they really want to establish themselves, maybe build a gap at the top, right? And they've got a good set of fixtures to perhaps do that, although back-to-back United again and then Arsenal. But I just want to, something you said earlier, I thought was a really interesting point. You mentioned about Ten Hag that it's not the solution to remove him. And to a large extent, I do agree with you. It would be the brave decision, wouldn't it, to say, look, we are absolutely going to stick with him, because we think if we leave him just to coach the first 11 and the squad, we think he can do a good job. He's had too much put on his plate. That's the other side of the story, isn't it? That's the other narrative, which is, look, he's not got recruitment, right? He has to take some culpability on that, but we can take some of those stresses, let's say, or pressures away from him and leave him to focus on his strengths, which is kind of coaching the squad and bringing that squad through. So although it'd be the brave decision, do you think, I just want to get you on record, what do you think? If it is a difficult defeat tomorrow, I think you and I agree, it would be the brave thing to keep him on and say, look, this season's a write-off, but we're going to bring in some sweeping changes and we're going to get this right from next season onwards? Or do you think he survives? Can he survive that? Do you think they're going to be brave enough to go with that? Or are they just simply going to perhaps pander to fan sentiment? Because I do believe, I don't know whether you agree or disagree, is a difficult defeat tomorrow, and I think the fan sentiment will turn pretty harshly, in my opinion.
I think a lot of fans have already turned on Ten Hag. I don't think he's got as much credit in the bank as he had at the start of the season, and I think this is the problem, because fans by nature are fickle, and if things are not going well, really the first one that's going to get the chop is usually always the manager, and that's always the problem, isn't it? Really, and I think, as I said, it's the easy thing to do to get rid of Ten Hag, and I think he is culpable, because he has been responsible for some shockers in terms of transfers. His man management skill leaves a lot to be desired. I'm not convinced that he's somebody, and you don't have to be friends with the players. I mean, Ferguson wasn't friends, but he certainly knew how to deal with individuals, deal with players, and he dealt with a variety of characters, some really strong characters. I mean, if you look at the time that Ferguson had, he had young kids, but he had also serious characters, strong characters that were very opinionated, and he moved some on. If they got out of line, if they perhaps got bigger than their boots, then he moved them on. So he was always excellent at building and forging relationships. I don't think Ten Hag is. I think Ten Hag is just a coach. I think he's preoccupied with coaching. And again, that leaves a lot to be desired as well. At Manchester United, you can probably talk about what he's done previously, where he's excelled. But certainly at Manchester United, I think he's not impressed me enough at this moment in time. Now, last season, I've got to be honest. I mean, I talked about fans being fickle. I'm fickle, because last season I thought this guy may be it. He seems to have a certain. He's quite stern, but he seems to be quite focused. He's got an idea. He's got a vision. and it seemed to be almost as if they'd turned the corner. But I think they've gone back. There's been a serious regression this season. So I don't know. I mean, I would sort of say that if he went, I don't think it's a catastrophe, but really United have to be thinking, right, if we get rid of Ten Hag, we've got to do more than just get rid of the manager, replace him with another manager. There's far too many other issues, primarily to do with players and players not being good enough, that needs to be addressed as well. So it's and I've got a feeling they lose tomorrow. I mean, I think it doesn't have to be a messy and a huge loss. I think if they just lose, I think that'll probably be the green light for them to sort of say, all right, Ten Hag, thank you, but it's time to move on.
Yeah, let's see. It should be an interesting one, and just from a Liverpool perspective, because they're also obviously the story, and it's their biggest game of the season as well, isn't it? I mean, yes, City over the last 3 to 4 years, but I think historically, obviously, Man United. So that home game, the fans are going to be in huge. They're going to be a huge swathe of optimism going into the game. They are top of the table. You mentioned rightly that they've not hit top that top level that we know from Liverpool. I just wonder whether or not that's in Liverpool's kind of future, so to speak. And what I mean is, I just wonder whether they are going to be this kind of workmanlike team. They're going to struggle at times, but they're going to put lots of goals together. They've got huge contributions coming off the bench. That's the big consistent thing I've seen this season, where they've turned games around by contributions off the bench. You saw it against Fulham. You saw it against, obviously, in the last game as well, where they turned it around against Palace, but even before that against Wolves, famously, when they should have probably really lost that game a second, or they really came on when Nunes and Diaz came on. I think the fact that they've now got real quality options off the bench, where they're normally able to bring on, I know Nunes has been playing recently, but previously Nunes, Diaz, obviously Jota, lots of great options. Gakpo's been coming off the bench and making good contributions. They've now got some midfield options as well. Again, I wouldn't say any of those midfielders, other than Szoboszlai, who's struggled a little over the last few games, but none of them have set the world alight. But it's given them enough energy and compensated for the weaknesses of last season, let's say, where it's just given them another 20%, 25% of kind of energy. And that's just been enough through the contributions at the front. And also at the back, I think Van Dijk's slowly getting back to his best. Alisson is still the best goalkeeper in the league. So I think it's one of those situations for Liverpool where, do I think this season they're going to hit that kind of consistent run of where you say, yeah, they look like a team that's going to win the title? Not your typical, not your City where it looks easy, pleasing on the eye, dominance. I think maybe perhaps this Liverpool team is a little bit more scratchy, a little bit more kind of, it shows a lot more resolve in terms of being able to turn around games, having the belief to turn around games, which they have done, I think, at record pace this season. Look, it's getting to that Christmas year, that New Year period where, teams can drop some points, a few injuries, a few kind of rotational issues and what have you. They'll really be hoping to kick on and establish a bit of gap. And look, their nearest challengers currently are Arsenal. Say currently, obviously Villa are just behind as well, and obviously City. Arsenal have a tough game tomorrow, just before Liverpool play United. So they'll be hoping before they go into that Anfield game against Arsenal next weekend, and perhaps have an even greater look, great opportunity for Liverpool. I don't believe in all this nonsense that they can't challenge for the Premier League title because they don't have this type of defence. Look, someone's going to win it, and Liverpool have shown the ability. I think they've got the best goal difference in the league. They've shown the ability to again win more games than not, and in the end, someone's going to have to win. There's going to come a point where it's going to be like they've got enough of a points buffer. So I think it's going to be a fascinating title race. But I think from a Liverpool perspective, they're your pick for the title, and they're looking sweet right now. And they've got a manager who's been there, done it. They've got players who have been there, done it. Salah, Alisson, Van Dijk, to name a few real leaders, as I would say, going into that kind of final stretch of 10 or 12 games. And it looks like they're going to be right there or thereabouts, aren't they, going into that final run? So fans have got to feel good about their chances this season. And I think they'll come very, very close.
I mean, yeah, you're right. They're my pick for the title. And that's more based on, I suppose, my affection for Liverpool rather than just absolute conviction, because I think of the three serious contenders for the league, and by that I mean Arsenal, Manchester City, and Liverpool. I place them third. I think in terms of the way that they're playing, I think Arsenal probably are consistently the best side. I think they're playing the best football. Manchester City, to have that array of riches, you're always going to be playing decent football. But they've had a few hiccups, especially when certain key players are missing, sort of namely Rodri. Liverpool just are finding ways to win games of football. But certainly in terms of the three sides that I've just mentioned, they seem to be, in my opinion, the third best. I just hope they keep on doing what they're doing. I mean, at some stage, maybe it will click, but it certainly needs to click when they're playing the big teams. I think against the likes of Palace last week, that was almost sort of the archetypal Liverpool performance this season, where it's difficult, it's quite an effort, quite a slog. They got a huge piece of luck, but they capitalised. That was the thing; they capitalised. And you're right about players coming off the bench. I mean, a player that I don't think you mentioned was Harvey Elliott, who I think is outstanding. Now, I think maybe that's going to be his role now as a sub rather than just as a starter, because he's a really cute player. He's a tricky player, and he's impactful. I think every time that he's come on, he impacts the game, and really as a sub, that's all you can. As a manager, that's all you can ask for from a sub, that you impact the game. So I think they've got enough there. But it's in terms of the league, they will need to improve the performance, because I think Arsenal are really, really strong. Even though they lost last week against Aston Villa, I thought they performed well. Manchester City, nobody can ever write off Manchester City. But for tomorrow's game, I predict about 3-1. That's my prediction for Liverpool. What do you reckon?
Similar, I'm going to go Liverpool. I actually had a dream a couple of days ago. I kid you not, that Liverpool won 1-0. But I'm going to go for a little bit more stronger. I'm going to go 3-0. Yeah, I think I can't see anything other than a comfortable Liverpool win, given also injuries, right, and suspensions on the United. There's out, Maguire's out. Yeah, I can't see it. 3-0, relatively comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just seems, as I said, I mean, I've said it a couple of times. It just seems that with the injuries that United have got as well. I mean, I suppose without the injuries, it would have still been a struggle. So it's going to be hard. So I think you're absolutely right. It's going to be a tough ask for Manchester United. I'm sort of thinking it probably might not be as easy as we all predict, but it probably could turn out to be a walk in the park for Liverpool. So that's certainly our thoughts. We'd love to hear yours. Hopefully this comes out sort of this evening. So pop your comments, predict your scores. It'd be nice to know what you think, but do it obviously before the game. Don't do it after the game. Don't be cheeky. Yeah. So that's our special. That's what we wanted to really do. I mean, it's a Saturday record. Brother always is obviously in Abu Dhabi. I mean, he's I don't know what time it is there. What time it is it there?
Probably around 5:30, I think.
Yeah, the sun's setting. So I think you've got plans of a night out, couple of drinks, orange juices, I presume.
Non-alcoholic beverages. Let's get it clear now. Let's get it clear. But yeah, we should be going out for the evening. But yeah, no, a lot of weekend football. But that's the big one, isn't it, Ayub? From an Arsenal perspective, big game just before that, Brighton. Hopefully we can get 3 points, or this trip's not going to get off to the best of starts for me. So let's see.
I presume you'll be watching the game in some bar tomorrow, or are you going to watch it
we'll make some arrangements at a suitable venue, Ayub. But I mean, all the games are televised here, so yeah, Brighton, Arsenal should be able to catch it somewhere, and then onto the big one. So yeah, let's just hope it sets the mood in the right direction for the day. But yeah, evening games here, obviously. So that evening, Liverpool, Manchester United will be 8:30 p.m. local time. So yeah, it should be an interesting affair. But yeah, huge game. Let's see.
Absolutely wonderful to talk to you. So, is there any other games that you want to talk about, or
Nothing really. I mean, like I said, Arsenal, Brighton at Emirates. Many might think Arsenal at home should do it, but Brighton have been a huge bogey team for them at the Emirates specifically, picking up big wins. Hoping Arsenal can correct that slide, because look, they face Liverpool at Anfield. Really, really difficult place to go. They've not won there in many a year. So don't think they can afford to lose back-to-back games going into Anfield. Otherwise, that gap's going to get ever wider. And all of a sudden, what looks like, I mean, you say they're arguably the best team so far this season, according to your eye, but suddenly that can fall apart very quickly. So hoping for a bounce back performance, but also win because that game looms large next weekend.
Excellent. Thank you as always. Before we go, I just want to give a shout out to Burnley. I've spoken to George yesterday, so I'm really wishing Burnley the best of luck today. They're playing Everton, so it's a tough game. George, as ever, is optimistic, but they need to get a result. They need to get a result because there's a gap developing between the third bottom team and the team that's above that. So they will definitely need to win. So good luck, Burnley.
Yeah, I was just going to say Sean Dyche, right? It's the Sean Dyche game playing against his old team. And if you look at the table, Ayub, it is actually a huge game, to your point, because of the gap. If Everton win that, that's really going to put Burnley behind the eight ball. There's a little gap developing there. And Everton have been on fire, relatively speaking. So,
absolutely,
huge game.
Absolutely.
Not one that Burnley can afford to lose, to be fair.
And that's the one that's on telly in the UK. So that's the 5:30 game. So obviously it's a game that you could probably watch as well later of an evening after a few drinks and a pizza or two.
Burnley v Everton, riveting. Yeah, I'm sure.
We'll sort of cut that bit out for George's sake. All right. So great to sort of speak to you. Have a fantastic time. I'll sort of catch up with you next week when we do the next shoot. So thank you, Oris. Thank you, viewers, as always. As always, thanks for your support. We'll be back on Monday or Tuesday, depending on this man's itinerary. He's a busy man. He's in Abu Dhabi. He's traveling to Dubai, I think, as well. So he might be on the road, but we'll sort of see how it goes. But have a wonderful weekend, everybody that's watching, and we'll see you soon.